Hey, this is Frank Taylor with Nature in Your Backyard. Today I want to show you some tricks to identifying plants. And a trick I often use is to see what they smell like. Because sometimes you find plants, trees, or small herbs or flowers that you're not quite sure what they are, and you've seen that leaf before, and it could be this or that, but if you smell it, it gives it away for sure. So, my first one I'm going to show you is this one. And this is a compound leaf. This big old thing is actually one single leaf with many leaflets. And if you look very closely at the base of these leaves, you can see a little gland right where my finger is. And that's another good tip-off to what this is. If at the base of that leaflet you can see those two little glands on those two projections right there. So this is Tree of Heaven, and Tree of Heaven is an invasive exotic species. It's a really bad tree. It doesn't have any value to it. The wood doesn't have any value. Nothing eats it. If you take one of these leaves and crush it up and smell it, oh man, that stinks is the best way to describe that. Or a rancid, it smells like rancid popcorn. Like if you left the popcorn out overnight in a bowl and smelled it the next morning, it stinks like that. So instead of calling this one Tree of Heaven, biologists want us to call it stink tree. And they call it stink tree because of how its leaves smell, and because it's not a useful tree. It's an invasive exotic, and it pushes out our native plants and trees. So I'm going to walk across the trail, and what I do, watch my quick trailer about my Nature in Your Backyard series, and I'll have another tree for you to see here in 20 seconds. Right here in your backyard. You never know what you're going to find. And here's to make this invasive. It's exotic. It's the front yard. Dogwoods are flowering. And I just took a couple swipes of terrestrial environment.
Produce seed pollen. And it's...
So today, I'm not in my backyard, but I am in Virginia's backyard. And more specifically, I'm in Radford City's backyard, Wildwood Park, an amazing urban forest, a great place to come and visit. And I walked off the bike path, and now I'm up on a trail, and I found, laying on the ground, this little plant that has a kind of roundish, almost heart-shaped leaf, but a very carefully scalloped edge to it. And thought, well, this could be, it could be one of a couple different things. So I think it's gill over the ground. And if it's gill over the ground, it'll have a spicy smell to it. Let me check it out. Oh, yes. Wow, that is really aromatic. And gill over the ground, gill is a unit of beer, and somebody that would pour gills was a beer maker. And this was used in merry old England to spice beers at one time. It's also called ground ivy. Look it up on Google, see a picture of it, scallop-shaped leaves, and if you want to be sure that's what it is, just crunch up a leaf and smell it, and it will smell very spicy, aromatic, almost not a nice smell. I've taken a few more steps up the trail, and I found these shrubs growing on both sides of the trail, and they're about chest height, and you can see the leaves don't really have, they look like a leaf. They don't have a particular shape that's really very defined. It's just an oblong leaf with a tip on it, and not serrated or toothy on the edges. But I think I know what this might be. And I think it's Spicebush. If I'm right, it will have a very pleasant, bright citrus smell. Let's see. Ah, that's a nice smell. That's the citrusy smell of Spicebush, so I was right. So it's cool how you can use sense of smell sometimes to identify certain plants, or at least confirm their identity. Usually I have a pretty good idea, and then I'll do my last check. I say, okay, let me see what it smells like. And if it smells like what I think it is, then I'm right. If it doesn't smell like that, or it smells different, or has no smell, I need to recheck and figure out what am I looking for. So I've taken a few more steps up the trail, and I found this plant here. So this plant has some very complex looking leaves. It looks like there's 3 leaflets to the leaf, and it's very sharply indented and kind of triangle shaped with lots of divots and indentions around it. I think I know what this is. I think it's sweet Cicely. And if it does, let's see. Let me see if I'm right. Let me crush up a leaf. Oh, what is that smell? Wow, that's a really different smell than anything I've had lately. I know what it is. It's licorice or anisette. It smells like licorice. So sometimes when you smell something and you don't have the visual cues, if I was smelling a piece of black candy and smelled that smell, I would know right away it's licorice. But out here in the forest, that kind of threw me. I couldn't identify that smell right away. So that is sweet Cicely. Here's another tree I want to identify. And this one has leaves that look a lot like the one we looked at earlier called Tree of Heaven. This, I think, is Black Walnut. And its leaf really does look a lot like Tree of Heaven. And I need to look at it a little more closely. And I can see that it doesn't have that little nub at the bottom of the leaf with the gland on it, like Tree of Heaven did. And so I'm going to check this out. And my way of confirming my identification is to smell this one as well, as you can imagine. So let me break up a little piece of the leaf. Oh, that is such a nice smell. It's kind of a light citrus, almost piney kind of smell. It's a very, very pleasant smell. It's like a nice furniture polish that you might put on something. So this is definitely walnut, and definitely not stink tree or Tree of Heaven. And here's one more. This one is just about done for the season, and I'll hold it up against my shirt here. So hopefully a better focus. And you can see it has these big seed pods, characteristic of a plant in the mustard family. And it has sort of heart-shaped serrated leaves. And this one without the flower is a little trickier to identify. And I think it's garlic mustard. Let me see. Yeah, it smells garlicky, all right. This is an invasive plant that takes over woodlands and edges, just like Tree of Heaven. It's not from around here. It's very invasive. It crowds out our native species. But that's how you identify it. Definitely a garlicky smell to it. And it's edible if you know for sure what the plant is. And again, I don't recommend you going around and trying random plant stuff. But people that know how to identify it have used it for food. So at the end of this video, I'm going to put photos that you can look at of each of the plants I looked at. So you can come here and identify. This is a great activity for families. Bring your kids here, bring your phone so you got your photos and ID, and do what I call the scent walk. And remember that when you're learning to identify plants, and I have a lot of subscribers and people that watch my videos that want to learn and are learning to identify things, sometimes it's overwhelming and sometimes it's really hard. And when you have all these little tricks like scent to add into your identification, it can be really, really helpful, if not just fun. And it's fun once you learn this to show people and say, hey, pick up that leaf and crunch it up. Tell me what you smell. And you can be a naturalist too. So this has been Frank Taylor with Nature in Your Backyard. Thanks for watching. I'm filming from Radford's Wildwood Park. I'm down here on the bike trail next to one of the other trails. If you come to Wildwood, come up to the trail that goes up to the high school, and all those plants are right here, just steps away. Thank you for watching Nature in Your Backyard. Hope you have a great day.